this is Bonnie, and today I'm going to be working on a Lawn Fawn project and using a die cut. And this happens to be called the Garden Gnome. And then I'm also going to be using a hello border on the card also. That's the plan. But today I'm going to be changing my Garden Gnome into being more like a leprechaun for St. Patrick's Day. And so right now what I did is I completely cut this die out. There's a solid piece and then there's an outline piece. And I completely cut that out in a light gray because I want it to be kind of a neutral color. I don't want it to stand out a whole lot, the outline. And then I also cut it out in white because I'm going to color all the pieces that get inlaid back into the die with Prismacolor pencils. So in order to put those pieces back in, I need this outline, and I need to glue that in place on the background. So that's what I'm doing right now. Like I said, I cut it completely out of this light gray. And I'm trying to line that up. And then by the time I get the other one colored or glued on, that should be good to go to start coloring my pieces in. One thing I want to take note to you about is this piece has a single piece, and in order to know where that belongs on it, you have to place your inlaid piece back on it. Then you know where to put your piece. You'll see what I mean. I'm going to show you in just a second. So I'm going to go ahead and glue the outline to the mushroom. And some of these pieces are a little bit small, but it's all doable. One of the things you could do is when you go to cut out your white that you're going to color, you could always put, I'm trying to think of the right thing, obviously like a sticker on the back. It would be I call it an X-ron. I would put my paper and then I'd run the X-ron through, and then I would go ahead and cut it out, because then all the pieces would have the sticker on the back. But I'm not doing that this time. I am just plain and simple going to be gluing it all on. So like I said, I need to know the position of that circle right there. And in order to know that position, I have to place this inlay back in. And then I saved out this small piece. And I'm just going to glue that in place so I don't lose it. I'm going to take that inlay piece back out because I need to color that in. Oops, I wondered if that was going to happen. I just was afraid I was going to lose that piece, so I really wanted to glue that in first. See if I can get that better. See if I can get that to stay in. There we go. There we go. Okay, so we got that in the place that I want it to be. So we can move our dies out of the way. And then I'm going to put this up here. And then he has a little lantern. And I thought, to make the inside a little bit different, I am just going to go ahead and use a sparkly gold gel pen. And I'm just going to color in this inside part with the gel pen, the sparkly gel pen. I am going to put paper underneath so I don't get it on my matte thing underneath there. A little bit easier coloring, not worrying about getting it off the side. So you just color that in, and I'm going to let that dry before I put that piece, the outline piece, on top. There's one other thing I know that I'm going to color in gold, so I'm going to go ahead and do that now, and that is the belt buckle, and that right there is the belt buckle. Let's get a little closer. That's the belt buckle right there. I kind of lined this up how it's going to go back in place. So I'm going to take that. Oops, I thought I had it. There we go. Make sure I got it the right way around. And I'm just going to color that in, same thing with the gold. And then I'm going to let that dry. And then we're ready to do, move that over. We're ready to do some coloring. Okay, I just wanted to stick to my pen. I'm going to move that die out of the way. All right, so the first thing we're going to go ahead and do is we are going to color in the beard. And because I'm making this a leprechaun, this is going to be an orange beard. And again, I'm going to get a little bit closer so you can see what I'm doing. And make sure I got the right side up. I do. And I'm just going to color this in an orange. Now, you can obviously also do this with your Copics. No big deal. And these pieces, like I said, are a little bit small, but you can still add a little bit of shading if you want to, which is easy enough to do. And this does take a little bit of time because it's smaller, but it doesn't take time because there's not very many pieces to color, because they're not big. There's pieces to color, but they're just not big. All right, and then I'm going to give it a little bit of shading. That was, just to let you know, if you do Prisma, it's 118, and it's cadmium orange. And I'm just going to go ahead and give a little bit of shading to the bottom of that. Right down there. And that works pretty good. And then we're going to go ahead and, whoops, it's kind of flipping around on me. Sorry about that. It's tiny. Okay, so we got that one done. We'll set that up there. Oh, actually, I'm going to fill that in a little bit better after I did that. Okay. Okay, then we're going to go ahead and get our mustache. And again, I'm coloring that in the same colors. And it's tiny, so I don't have, there's not a lot of place to add shading, but I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit to the bottom and color that in just a little bit more. Okay, so we have the mustache done. So the next thing we're going to do is go ahead and work on the skin color. And for the skin color, I am going to use peach. And to do that, I am going to pop out the eyes right there because I want those to be black. So I'll just put that to the side. I didn't want to lose them, so I kept them in. Sometimes they come out, so you just try to keep them to one side. All right, so again, like I said, I'm going to be using peach. I think I'm going to use this as my shading color. And then come in with a lighter color underneath. Or not underneath, but a lighter color. All right, so I'm going to be using, this is called light peach, just to kind of blend that in a little bit. Need to get that up there so you can see that better. Yep, okay. And this bottom piece right here is part of the eye. So I am going to be leaving that white. I'm not going to color that in with a color. Probably would have helped if I would have sharpened my pencil a little bit better. Okay. So that's the skin for the face. All right. And then what we're going to do is, I know these little pieces right here are the hands. And make sure I have those the right way around. And I'm going to add some of the skin color the lighter skin, the peach or light peach. Whoops. To that. Set that up there and get the other hand. It is tiny for you to probably even see. Okay. So we've got that piece. So that's the only skin pieces that we have to get colored in. I want to go ahead and get those eyes colored in. Could get a little bit closer, couldn't I? Okay. So I'm going to hold it over with my finger and then get that colored in. And you have to be kind of careful when you're coloring it, because if you press too hard, it flips. The paper will flip like a tiddlywink. So we've got that piece done. And if it flips like a tiddlywink, it could be any place in my craft room. So I'm trying to be careful. And you could always cut these out, like I said, in the color. Okay, so we've got the eyes done. One other thing that needs to be black, two things, is the rest of the belt. And these pieces are small as well. I'll try that. The fun part is coloring the outfit and then putting him back together. Okay. And then his feet, his shoes. And one more. So there's really nothing a whole lot special about coloring the tiny pieces, because there's not much of anything you can do to those. So, all right, so then we're going to go ahead and color in the little shirt. And for the shirt, we are going to use, this is called apple green, and we're just going to color that in. And we can do a little bit of shading on this one, and we could actually use a little bit of texture, and I'll show you what I do to do that. All right. So what I use is I get a little bit darker color. And what I use is it's called Prussian green, and that's 109. And I'm just going to go along the bottom a little bit, like a teeny tiny shadow. And along the sides and up into the arm, into the, just basically around the outside of it. Because I'm going to come back in and blend that in just a tad. Okay. And I'm just kind of doing kind of tiny circles with this. And then to give it a little bit of texture, I'm going to use the same Prussian green again, and I'm just going to do some flicking lines. So I'm going to flick, 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 just like that. And then I'm going to come back the other way and flick down. So it kind of looks like a little bit of linen in a way, and the sharper your pencil, the thinner your lines will be and more defined. And I should have really sharpened my pencil a little. So that's going to be the texture for that. And then we're going to do the bottom part, which doesn't allow for much texture at all. So we're going to go ahead and color that in. I don't want to lose my black pieces on here. Okay. So obviously the part that takes the longest is if you choose to color. All right, just going to color this, and I'm not going to give that much of any texture. Okay, so that will be his little shirt. And then we've got the hat. And this part is really the most fun, I think. Again, I'm just going to totally color this in. But I'm going to go ahead and give it a little bit, like I said, this one's going to have a little bit more texture to it. And how I'm going to do that is I'm going to use a Prussian green, and I'm going to come back in like there's a little bit of shadow and wrinkles in the hat. And then I'm going to do a little bit of a wrinkle in the rim. And then come back up this way. I'm not trying to make it symmetrical because it wouldn't be symmetrical, the little lines. Now remember, if you're doing this, you could make this into Santa, and this would be the red part of the hat. And you could actually add a little pom-pom to the top. And it'd be really cute. And like it could be, like I said, it really could be a cookie cutter. It could be a cookie cutter gnome, a cookie cutter Santa, or a cookie cutter leprechaun. All depends on how you color it up. So, and that's going to be the hat. I am going to give that a little bit of texture. I really should sharpen that just a tad, if you'll excuse me, because I think that will really help with the texture. Okay. So again, it's just the flicking lines throughout. Whoops. Like that. And then you're just going to come back in and randomly go in the opposite direction. And you'll end up having a little hat that looks like that. All right, so we've got our little pieces, and I don't want to lose them. We have one more thing I need to do. These are the pant legs, and we're just going to color that, whoops, in the Prussian green. And then we've got the entire leprechaun colored in. So then what I'm going to do is I just wanted you to see what I was doing, and I wanted to be able to tell you. I'm going to go ahead and glue it, but I'm going to fast forward it as I'm gluing it, so you don't have to watch it in regular speed, if you want to call it that. All right, got everything in terms of the leprechaun colored, and we're going to go ahead and put him together. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and color in the lantern, and it's already gray, but I'm going to go ahead and use this gray to give it just a little bit more color, a little bit more shading. And this gray is 30% cool gray. There is not a big, huge contrast, but there's enough of a contrast to give it color and some shading. And I'm just coloring in the I don't want to say the underneath part like it would be a shadow, and then the top part a little bit from the bottom. And then I'm going to use black to outline the bottom for the shading. I'm going to have to blend that back in. And I'm going to do that for the handle and the very top. And basically I'm just kind of scribbling in that. And because it's already gray, this has a texture already to it because it was a gray paper with a texture. So I'm trying to color in a little bit of that texture. So I'm blending that into that gray and black together. And then I'm going to come down to the bottom and do the same. And this one's going to be really easy to go ahead and put together. I'm just going to glue it and stick it on top. I'll do that really fast for you. Because you know we already did the back. I put the gold gel pen on it. And I didn't really need to put any glue at the top of that handle. And then we're just going to line that up. And then we have a little bit of glitter glowing in that lantern. Okay, so now for the mushroom really fast. We'll go ahead and color that in. There's not very many pieces. The bottom part, or actually I'm going to go ahead and do the top part because I have that ready. This is Crimson Lake. And the Crimson Lake, I'm just going to do like, again, I'm just basically kind of scribbling. The shade of it, where the shade part would be, darker part, if you want to call it that. All right, and then the next color is called Poppy Red, and I'm blending that up. It's got a little bit of an orange cast to it, and I thought maybe that would tie in well with his beard. I was afraid if I went too red, it would kind of clash. Okay, and then just to hopefully tie that all together, like I said, this is just really kind of a quick, using, this is called Deco Pink. My lighting isn't the best, so I couldn't read the words. And I'm going to blend that up into that and try to blend the bottom part better. I'm going to have to add a little bit more of the Poppy Red to blend that there. We'll see. Yeah. We'll add a little bit of that because I can tell it's not blending right where I like it. Okay, let's see if we can get that a little bit better. All right. So that will be like our mushroom part. And then the stem, I'm going to go ahead and use, this is, oh dear, I don't know, I've got it, I've actually made it so that it's so short that I can't read what it is anymore, but I can tell you the number. It's 1085. And in fact, I even need to sharpen that just a tad bit more. But it's kind of like a putty gray. It isn't called that because I do have one that is a putty, but this one isn't. But it's something beige. I can tell you that straight away. So I want this to be beige, but it also needs to be a little bit lighter. So this is just going to be the shadow of it, the one side. And then I'm going to grab, this is called eggshell, and blend that out a little bit with eggshell. So we're going to quickly try to get that part done. I'm going to use a little bit of white on this edge. That white must have had a little bit of pink on it. That's okay, it all works. So eggshell on this little piece here, and a little piece here. And then the little itty bitty dot that goes in the center. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and glue those pieces together, and I'll be right back. All right, so I'm gonna be doing the card base now, or the card topper to put the gnome on. So what I want to do is I want to make a little hill on here, and so I'm going to be putting the hello border to the side and cut that away, and then I'm going to, well, you'll just see. I'm going to go ahead and cut this away and I'll be right back. Okay, so I have these two pieces, and what I want to do is for this bottom piece is I just want to add a little bit of Distress Oxide Mowed Lawn so that the gnome will be standing on a hill. And I'm just going to go ahead and ink that up really quickly. And then for the top part, I'm going to go ahead and use the Clover Background Stencil. It's a 2-layer one. I used it in my last video on DiesRUS, and I absolutely love it. And so I'm going to be using that again for the top part. And now that I know what I'm doing, it can go a little bit faster, I hope. So there we go. I've got my arrow all set up, and I am going to go ahead and just try to center that somewhat. And yes, I'm using the darker color first, so I'm using the, what did I say? Yeah, Mowed Lawn. Well, actually, you know what? I actually used the lighter color first. That's all right. We'll switch it up a little bit, because you can use actually the same color and just come back in heavier, putting more on. Make sure I get all of this. Hold that down. But normally I do the lighter color first, and then I add the darker color. We can get this to work. So there we go. And now I'm going to be using Twisted Citron. And I probably could have gone with a darker color still, but that's okay. This is my plan. And I can match this up because I can see the details there. Just a minute, I gotta get myself in the right spot. There we are. Got myself lined up. Yep. Out of the way. Let's see, I'm still a little bit off. Okay. Let's just see how different that is. It's a little bit different. It's not as significant as what I did last week. I want that to move. All right, take a look. That's still different. I like it. All right, so I've got my 2 pieces done. So the next thing that I want to do is I made a card, kind of like a card mat to go with this. And so basically what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be lining this up as best I can, but before I put these together, I just want to get some idea of how it's going to go on. So I put it in the right spot. And I'm going to go ahead and use glue this time. Oops, wasn't showing you that, sorry. So that's the plan. And I want to make sure I get these pieces down here from the letters so they stay in the right place and they'll be able to be secured against the sentiment. And I kind of lined that up so that I knew I had enough space down below. Okay. So the next thing that has to go in so I know that I'm lined up right is the sentiment. That has to go in like that. And obviously it's longer than what it needs to be. And normally I would cut the ends off before I glued that top piece down, but technically I really couldn't because it extends. And I have to have a background to glue these pieces back together. But we'll make it work. Okay. I'll make sure I get that pushed up in there. Fit in that to make it like an inset. I don't know if I got enough glue on that one little piece right there. I think I'm going to add a little bit of glue right there because it's moving. All right, that should hold it. All right. So I am going to go ahead and snip those with my small scissors really quickly. This needs to line up. Go this way. Okay, so we don't need those pieces. And so the next part is the bottom, the hill. That's going to fit right underneath. All right. And the reason I wanted the gray behind is because I wanted it to be different than the white, so it would show up and have like a shadow. So I had a couple reasons for doing it quite that way. All right, so that's going to be the back of the card. And then we're going to go ahead and put the Leprechaun gnome on. And I'm going to use foam tape. So I'm going to go ahead and put some foam tape on him so it doesn't take as long, and I'll be right back. Okay, so I've got my card on the card base, and I've got double-sided tape on the back of the gnome, but I want to put the mushroom down without any foam tape so it lays behind the gnome. And I want it to go like that. So we'll get that on there first. And then we've got the gnome with his double-sided tape. Just want to make sure I have room for the little. Yep. Okay, and then we've got the little lantern. And we have our little completed card. I think that's perfect for, that works great. I mean, it can still be a garden gnome if you want it to be, but it also can be for St. Patrick's Day. I think he looks like a cute little leprechaun. So I hope you enjoyed that and that inspired you. And I'm going to have everything in the description below and links to the store. So thanks so much for stopping by, and we'll see you again next week.